So I think one of the learnings I took from that is never underestimate other people's ignorance. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but especially when you're in meetings with senior people and you're talking about things they don't understand, and it's quite often easy for them to say no or to get in the way of it. And one of the things that Kim demonstrated through that is if you help them through that process, and especially if you keep illustrating what your end goal is, especially in patient terms or even in commercial terms, helps them to understand it even if they don't understand the technology. Okay, so next we're going to hear from Charlie. Let me just pull that up. On a more non-pharma based dive into, where is it on this? Present. Okay. Right, just a little bit on Charlie. I heard Charlie talk at the Healthcare Association annual general meeting. And I realised how little I knew about voice, and I should probably learn more. And I thought it'd be good to get him along to this. In terms of Charlie's expertise, I did a little bit of digging on him, a bit of cyber stalking via LinkedIn and various articles. And if I've got this right, you first engaged with voice in 2015, which is kind of a long time ago in terms of voice. And first started out by creating an airline booking app to help people book their airlines, nice clear focus, and then moved on, like this one, into an in-room concierge, which was also hooked up to Facebook. So back then that was kind of really advanced stuff. But so it's really his expertise and experience I wanted everyone to share tonight, as I heard him at the HCA meeting, and I don't know if you're demoing the mental health app or not, but one of the things I found really impressive was an app that really could help people who were going into some sort of difficult areas just to pick them back up again. So a bit of a health application. Over to Charlie.
Magic. So good evening, and thanks very much for inviting me along. So as I say, I'm Charlie Cadbury from Say It Now. We are a specialist technology business. We work specifically in natural language understanding, so we build chatbots and voice bots. And this evening, I really want to kind of talk through three specific things here. So, one about the voice landscape as a whole. Secondly, about kind of demoing, showing you what this can sound and feel like. And thirdly, kind of what are the applications to healthcare specifically. But if we take it right back to the very, very beginning, this is all about communication. So, from the dawn of time, us as humans have consistently evolved the way that we have communicated with each other. We've changed this and enhanced this as we go along, and we've made sure we've got better and better ways of communicating with each other. And as companies and brands, we've continued to try and evolve the way that we can communicate with our patients, with our clients and customers. But before I go too deep into voice, just a little bit of my background. So I've spent my whole career in technology. I started my first website in 1999. In 2005, I then set up a software business and only dealing in cutting edge technology. So in 2005, we were building websites. In 2007, we were building Facebook applications. So we were retained by Samsung, building out all of their kind of Facebook apps. And then 2007, we started building mobile phone applications. And so grew that from a two-person to a 45-man business, built about 350 digital products during that time. But then this magical moment happened, right? And so if we can see the way that technology evolves over time, every 15 years or so, there's a big shift in the way that we can communicate back with technology. So back in the 70s, the only way, and this is very much my first access point into computers, was all about a command line. You could only type characters and letters and numbers. Then the graphical user interface came along, so this is Windows and the advent of the mouse, so you could start to click around a screen and it all became a little bit more beautiful. The web then massively transformed that by connecting us all together, and then you suddenly had these vastly powerful computers in your pocket. And recently, over the last few years, we've got this voice user interface. And what's important to note is with voice, it's not going to take over, it's not going to be the only way that we access digitally provisioned products and services. It's going to be additive. Much like every single one of these before, it's not replaced what has been before, it's added another layer on top. And so the challenge right now is to understand exactly how to use this new layer to the best advantage to augment people's lives. So as we've recently been told, I started this kind of magic moment in voice in 2015, working with an enterprise travel software business, building out a proof of concept. 2015 was to prove that we could book an airline ticket using just a voice. Proved that out, and the company we were working with were very excited about this prospect, and so we then looked at products we could build. So what were the right environments? These smart speakers are terrible in crowded rooms, and so we sought to look out kind of quiet rooms, so rooms where there was only one person. I don't want that to play. So then we built Dazzle. We used Marriott as our launch partner here, and so in December 2016 we put this into Marriott Hotel County Hall, just down the river here, and this was an in-room concierge. So you could walk into your bedroom, and then there was a prompt by the device to say, you could say Dazzle and ask anything that you would otherwise ask of the concierge. So you'd say, Dazzle, can you send me a gin and tonic or a new bathrobe, and then that would then send the request down to the concierge, and they would then deliver that to you. Very, very early on, we realised that the people didn't necessarily trust this as a system in its own right. So they were asking for, saying, Dazzle, can you send me a bathrobe? And then calling down to the concierge and saying, did you get my request for the bathrobe? Thus nullifying the system that we created. So we then created this feedback loop. So this Facebook Messenger chatbot which sat in your pocket. So you'd ask for something to be delivered to you, your phone would buzz in the pocket, and it would say, right, we've received this request, we're going to deliver this to you in a couple of minutes. And that then worked really well. And I think this learning was very much showing that we understood the innovation really was all around natural language understanding rather than chatbots or voice bots. And so that's where we kind of grew our understanding and knowledge and built out this platform. It was a great platform, a multi-award-winning platform. Took me around the world, winning several awards for this thing, which was great. However, it was too early. So we sold to a number of other groups, and then Alexa and Marriott teamed up together. Alexa launched Alexa for hospitality, destroyed our business model, and that's when we set up Say It Now. So look, I want to talk to you a little bit about where we are within this hype cycle. Who's come across the Gartner hype cycle before? For the majority of people who haven't, let me just kind of quickly run you through. So what happens is clever technologists usually find a way to do something in a novel way and have this great innovation. Then what happens is sales and marketing get hold of this, and they go and tell the world about this fantastic new technology that's being produced and massively overinflated. Then when people actually get this in their hands, I don't know if you all remember your first experience with the smart speaker, but it was probably not what you thought it was going to be, and then it takes a little while for the market to mature and really find the right kind of applications for this new technology. So just a whistle-stop tour of where we currently are in voice. So Gartner first identified voice as this natural language question answering in 2011, and that's when it was kind of first identified, and it was then going to be kind of 5 to 10 years away. So this is a technology that you should keep an eye on. It's gradually kind of stuck around there, kind of got peak hype just as Alexa launched in 2014. Alexa was in a massive race to win against its competitors because they needed to get first to market to grab the market share. They did a great job at that. They're now massively defending that advantage they got along the time. And 2016, interestingly, it was very important because Gartner then reclassified this as something which was going to hit mainstream adoption within the next 2 to 5 years. All right, so remember that was 2016. 2017, tumbleweed. So they've completely taken this off the hype cycle, saying that, right, this is on its way, this is coming, and we very much believe that now is the time for voice. It's important to kind of, when you're looking at the Gartner hype cycle, let Bill Gates' voice ring in your ears. He very famously said that people tend to overestimate the change that new technology will bring in the short term and underestimate the change it will bring in the long term. The message to take here is that it's not going to massively change your life in the next couple of years, but the world will be very, very different within the next 10. And why is this? So what we see here is we see this kind of billion user club. You know, the software giants that you know and love. They are all on a race to get their digital assistant front and center in your life. If they can do that, then that will be the trusted assistant you will go to whenever you have a question. They will then be able to influence the information you get in your life, and that will then dictate the products and services and ultimately the course of the life that you can then lead. I was at Amazon yesterday afternoon, and they were talking about their vision for the future, which is all about Alexa Anywhere. Just a second.
Just to confirm, you'd like to hear the song Anywhere?
Not quite. Alexa, stop. We'll get back to her in a sec. That's the vision for the future, and this is this particular assistant in every single part of your life. So you've got your dots at home, you've got the auto, which is coming out to go in your car. Interestingly, they had a million pre-orders. These aren't shipping yet, but in the States there's a million pre-orders for this going to be in your car. You've got these kind of devices here. Which should now have much more screens on them. Screens increase your dwell time. You've got your Fire TV, so the people watching TV and able to then augment or kind of jump into asking questions here. Microwaves you've seen, and then they've launched these earphones. In a world where we are trying to cram more and more and more information into our mind in every single spare moment, as with the rise of the podcast, then more and more people are also going to be able to access their assistant in their ears. And so going back to kind of Bill Gates' point, these big giants are very, very good at gently nudging you in the direction of using these assistants first and foremost. And I noticed this when Google launched their new range of hardware in October last year. They had this, which was a wireless charging stand, which meant that what you'd do is you'd get your phone and you put it standing up on this charging stand. Very clever, but it then forced on the front of your Pixel the assistant to present, which meant that you started to talk to your phone very much like the way that you would talk to your smart speaker. The difference being is then you then take it off the stand and carry it with you, but then continue to use your assistant in your day-to-day life. So in this way, kind of these giants are very, very good at nudging you in the way that they're going to change your day-to-day behaviour, and using voice as the access point. Now, there's a lot of challenges for designing for voice. I'm sure you found with designing chatbots, it's very, very different to the way that we've learned how to build websites or mobile apps or what have you. Because in a graphical interface, you expect to see things in the same way, but in a voice interface, you just need to be ready for anything that's thrown at it. Or in a chatbot, you'll get a whole lot of weird things that you weren't expecting. And it's only over time you can train the systems. And this is because when you're designing a graphical user interface, you have a happy path. The only way to get from one screen to the next screen is by pressing a button or clicking a button. Whereas the way to get from one point to the next step in a voice interface, people can say anything. So you need to change the way that you put people in mental models and limit their expectation about what they can ask particularly. Now, this is coming right now. There's a whole load of kind of timely announcements. So 2 days ago, gov.uk have teamed up and they're doing their experimentation with these smart speakers, allowing you to ask questions of the government kind of powered by these smart speakers, like, how do I apply for a passport? When's the next bank holiday? What's the minimum wage? How do I get free childcare? This is all coming. But this isn't new. There's some really, really good examples, and I just wanted to give a demo of what I think is a really, really good kind of. I was talking to our man at Amazon yesterday and saying, look, what's the best example of a healthcare skill that you've seen recently? And he pointed to this one. I was playing around with it last night, so I'm relatively new to this. I've left this world behind, but I'll show you how this works. Alexa, open my breastfeeding friend.
Hi, your breastfeeding friend here. Welcome back. Remember, if you have a specific question about breastfeeding, just ask me at any time. Now, would you like to continue with my breastfeeding guide?
No, thank you.
No problem. Did you have a specific question, or are you feeding now?
Can my partner help?
Evidence shows that you're more likely to breastfeed longer with your partner's and family's support. And that's good news for your baby, so try to get them involved. Your partner may not be able to help with the actual breastfeeding, but they can help in many other ways. They can attend antenatal or breastfeeding sessions. Some sessions are even organised especially for partners, so ask your midwife or local children's centre for more info. They can give you emotional and practical support. Try making time for each other when you can, and do the little things that make you both feel cared for. Would you like to hear more on this topic?
No, thank you.
What else can I help you with today?
How long should I feed for?
Every baby's different, so it's really up to them. Some want short, frequent feeds, others prefer longer meals, or a mix of the two. If you let them finish the first breast, then offer the second, they'll let you know if they're still hungry. If you're worried your baby's feeding all the time though, you may need a bit of help with positioning and attachment. Just chat to your midwife, health visitor, or breastfeeding support worker, or call the National Breastfeeding Helpline. What else can I help you with today?
Nothing, thank you.
Thanks for using Breastfeeding Friend. See you again soon.
So this is an emergent practice, and so what this kind of demonstrates is what's been learned over the last few years and how to build good experiences. So it's a relatively robust experience. It's using the screen as well, which is kind of reinforcing what you should reinforcing the information that it's giving across. This is an Alexa skill which is kind of constantly evolving. The first generation of the skill used the native voice, used Alexa's native voice, and so it didn't go down very well in testing. So the mothers, they didn't want to hear from Alexa, they wanted to hear a trusted human voice, and so it's best practice. And what we do with the skills that we build is we get them normally narrated over the top, because then people feel a lot more comfortable. You're able to kind of also build some kind of brand personality into the skills that you're building. It's relatively important to keep the content fresh and to keep these updated the whole time. So kind of doubling down on the fact that now really is the time. You couldn't have chosen a better month for this, by the way. So on the 4th of April this year, Amazon announced that they had become HIPAA compliant in the States. And this is a huge thing, and it kind of shows the direction of travel for this business. And so this is coming this way. We are going to be building more compliant healthcare experiences here in the UK. So what that then allowed, this whole swathe of companies who had been waiting. So we know that this HIPAA compliance, it isn't an easy thing to do, and this started in 2016 as they started to ramp up their healthcare aspirations. But the minute this launched, they had a whole number of skills waiting in the background, which had been built by companies who wanted to be ahead of the rest and be able to use the weight of the Amazon launch of this new HIPAA kind of stamp of approval to kind of jump on the bandwagon and get the most of that kind of PR. And so the launch case studies where how do I get my daily health tip? How can I get my express scripts and where's my order? How do I get my children to start their daily check-in? How do I get my my last blood sugar reading? How do I get Atrium Health to find the nearest urgent care? Or ask the Swedish Health Connect to schedule an appointment? So all of these use cases are now out in the wild and have benefited from being kind of first out on this Alexa announcement. And kind of to kind of close this off, this is really the time. We're a maturing interface, which is going to be used more and more and more. It's number 6 on Forbes' list of dominant AI technologies this year, and they're just doubling down on the fact that the big software giants are desperate to power the access point into your daily life, and so they are doing everything they can to support businesses, allowing these virtual assistants to be the access point. And so I think to finish, I'm a big fan of this quote by Bill Gates. This is the time. So we've been told that this is very much the future, and this is the way that we will be engaging with the digital world in the next few years. It's not going to be a massive big bang, but the way that we're talking to the internet will be very, very different in kind of 5-10 years. Just a couple of points. I've got 2 5-year-olds and a 4-year-old. Their first ever access point to the internet was through their voice. I can believe that in another 10 years, where they're 15 and 14, there's no way that they won't be using voice as a day-to-day way to access the products and services that they're getting from this world. And there was a second point which escapes me. It'll come back to me. Anyway, so where's it now? I'd welcome your questions on this topic. Thank you very much. Yeah, and it's crazy, yeah.
You had the big 4 on there.
Yeah. Interestingly, so we use different providers for different use cases. Right, so we use IBM Watson if in enterprise where we have to be really, really, really careful about locking down data. We use Lex in more kind of consumer-facing applications, and we use Dialogflow when we're trying to do cross-platform conversation models. So Dialogflow is relatively useful if we want. In fact, the stuff we do a lot of work with Diageo, and so we're building voice skills for them. And then when we're turning that into chatbots or things that you can use on WhatsApp, then we use Dialogflow to kind of do that crossover. So we're hedging our bets, and I've been burned before with trusting one platform. And so making sure that we're kind of platform agnostic is really important.
So is there any reason on your earlier slide where you excluded Microsoft from that mix, where you saw Google doing search and Amazon doing e-commerce discovery, etc.? Microsoft wasn't there.
They are there. They're with Apple there.
They are, but they weren't on that slide.
They are there with Cortana. Yeah. Good spot. Thanks.
How do you stop your children from doing things using the voice that they see you and mimic you?
Yeah, so you set up passwords and passcodes which are different to the ones on your phone because they crack those really quickly.
From experience, notifications to say someone's ordered something and you can turn it off quite quickly. We have Amazon Dash buttons as well.
Yeah.
You press the button to order.
Yeah. Exactly. Wait, my second point here. So let's come back. So the second kind of thing that's really pushing this forward is that Samsung have publicly said that every single one of the 100 million products that they ship per year will all be voice enabled by 2020, which is next year. So you've got Amazon Alexa everywhere. So no matter where you are going to be able to talk to your technology, and that's where people are going to be asking questions, and it's where the brands that are available there will be more relevant than the ones that are not.
Charlie, are we really going to do that in public?
No, not necessarily. But if you're wearing headphones, there's Apple put patents through in 2012 for something they termed sub-audible speech, which is basically kind of mumbling, so you can talk very quietly, and these will pick up what you're saying. And I think the AirPods have that capability built in, just so that you can give requests to yourself. Also, kind of voice recognition technology is going up and up, so that you will know who in the house is talking, and so that it will only answer to you. So but also, like, it's not. This is an additive interface, right? So it's not going to stop you taking your phone out and then interfacing the way that you currently do, kind of browsing the web or using chatbots or anything else. You know, we just encourage that. But when your hands are tied, I think the breastfeeding example is great because you know your hands are full. Then you're able to then access information that you couldn't.
Well, can I put that question back to everyone here? So I think that's an excellent use case because your hands are full, etc. It's a perfect use case for boys. Can we think of other ones in our own world, health and?
Well, not in health, but if your hands are full of shopping, it's not going to turn your lights on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that at home. Yeah, or calling up a recipe where you're covered in onion. Remind me.
Yeah.
Rather than the iPad in my kitchen, which looks like
It's going to feel more and more natural because of the little convenience pieces like being turn the lights on, change the recipe page or whatever with your voice. That's the things that are natural.
Yeah.
Trying to jump straight into healthcare, if it's been the first thing that they come up with,
Yeah.
everyone would have freaked out and no one's gone near it.
Totally.
Now it's more of a daily use.
Yeah, so we do. Yeah, we built our first apps in 2007, and then our first banking apps in 2011. So you know, it takes a little while before the more compliance-orientated industries really going to get involved. But you know, this is coming.
So Charlie, where do you think there was some news in the last couple of weeks which said Amazon, Google, they monitor certain for training purposes to retrain the bot.
Yep.
There's a human listening to what you say. Now, when it comes to health, people may or may not like that. If it's a human doctor, you may think, well, it's great, these things there. If it's somebody who's listening to, I've got cancer or a disease I don't want people to know I've got,
Yep.
then no. Where do you think that, how do you think that would change for pharma healthcare, where you may need to fork them off to a human?
Yep.
Could be an adverse event, could be a serious condition you picked up, because they're talking about symptoms, you think, well, you really need to get to hospital. So how do you think that slider will move between human and bot?
Yeah. So we were part of that in the last couple of weeks. So we were actually the team that the only time that those teams are listening to any audio are when the user has said, I don't understand that, or when developers like ourselves have said, oh, this isn't working correctly, can you check this out? So that's about humans training the system and those specific instances. The minute you're in a skill, so that's not being listened, it's not being listened to by Amazon. That's then a kind of a closed unit just trying to understand intents. It's all what these systems are doing, their natural language understanding. So what they're trying to do is change what you're saying using your voice into text very, very quickly and putting it in an environment that you as the brand control. So you.
Where a patient wants to, I'm saying it's the flip side.
Yeah.
A patient may want to speak to a human.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk to a bot at that point. But you've detected something where it is an adverse event. You may know who it is. At that point, you have to fork it. So do you think that slide will, for pharma, for healthcare, that will be, the human element will be more active than banking, for example?
I think as long as you put the right flow so that people can jump out whenever they want. You know, you can ask to talk to a human whenever you want, and they will get the instructions. It's like putting the information onto a microsite, right? So you know, I'm delivering you this information, but if you want to speak to a human, here's the numbers on the site. You just deal with that kind of user flow in a similar way. So it's
We had this conversation with patients in terms of, would you rather speak to a bot or a human? And it's sad to say there's a massive generational divide.
Can I just jump back onto my
So
slides?
when I speak to kind of some millennials or younger, actually they would prefer to speak to a non-human than a human. And there are lots of stats at the moment coming from like Google stats and stuff that people prefer to make friends with non-human because actually it's less judgmental.
Yeah.
And actually, we're talking to a few people, I would rather deal with a chatbot than someone on the phone.
That's already been the case
And
for,
that's the case,
when people have schizophrenia, for example, mental health, they prefer to talk to a bot than a doctor. It's more comfortable because you know that the judgmental aspect is in place.
Yeah.
There's also some research around robots, and people engage more with robots than human.
Yeah.
And then because, especially around asking questions and knowledge.
Yeah, because from a trial universities, they were looking at
So I think this is to your point.
With autistic children, and it was working very well.
Yeah.
Experience the emotion and all those things.
I think it's a really valid. It goes back to that quote, that thing I found that 41% of users using voice activated or voice speakers. Let's say it's like talking to a friend. You can kind of see that where you got the feedback that they didn't want Alexa voice.
Yeah.
They wanted another voice, so it has that more of that connection. And having worked in schizophrenia for many years as a rep and then in marketing, it's it's a difficult, embarrassing place both for the patients, for the carers, for everyone involved. And being bloke that doesn't go to GPs either, I would maybe not voice, but certainly chatbots is kind of at least an entryway. I think for us it's a really interesting area to look at vulnerable and hard to reach patients. Yeah,
it was when I think we presented this slide at the HCA event.
Yeah,
and this had just come a week before from this report from Ross, which was saying that there's a large proportion that are happy to be diagnosed via chatbot.
Sorry for the silly question, but I'm looking at these numbers and I wonder whether this is due to the fact that the new generation is very much used to social media rather than interacting with people.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether this is the right way to go. The fact that we are losing the ability to interact with individuals and that they are more comfortable with machines.
I think I think that's a fact, that people are expecting immediacy from the world. They expect to get the information they want immediately, and if I'm going to have to book an appointment and then book an appointment in the future to go and receive that information for a human, or I can talk to Facebook Messenger and get that information right now, that's the utility that this generation are happy to get and give up that face-to-face.
But linking all those points together as well, John, you asked me about when it gets kicked out to medical info or to a doctor. I think one of these things, they serve an obvious purpose, which is triage. There's so many, Pharma's this big wall hidden behind a pill, as in the patient information link or MedInfo line, that we can use these things to triage to the right people, to the right persons, to the right patient organisations, etc. And we have the budgets and the weight to do some of these things that can really help us to push people to the right places. What those right places are, that's a whole other debate, I guess.
There's a big debate. I mean, right is one thing, but I'm sure Kodak thought it was a right idea to use film cameras. Preferred people to use film cameras. They didn't get in the digital space, and then they lost out massively. So to me, it would also be a question of, do you go where people are and where people are going, or do you go where you think might be right? I think if you lose the Generation Z or you lose millennials just because you think it's not right to go down that social media or chatbot space, you will lose them.
Interesting. We went to a meetup. I don't know if anyone goes to Global 21 meetups. It's for people under the age of 21. Obviously, I was an audience, not a participant member. Talking about how to engage with this group. It was all about healthcare and digital healthcare. And they had a panel of young millennials and Zeds, etc. And basically they were saying, I would never use an app that's recommended to me by a doctor, never use an app that's recommended to me by school. It was basically all down to peer promotion and peer recommendation, and pretty much it all boiled down to it would be a messenger app. So even if we produce, and you talked about producing some apps, we all know that Pharma has pretty much failed when it comes to decent mobile apps for all kinds of reasons. So I started my business, and it was a very painful process trying to get Pharma to adopt apps. But nowadays it's all about messenger, either whether that's a real person at the end of that messenger or something else. It's just undeniably the way that
but the industry and the NHS doesn't have a monopoly on creating a chatbot, putting it out there.
No.
So the quality of information you find on Google is highly variable.
Yeah.
The quality of information you get from a chatbot will also, I don't see that changing.
And geographical,
so, geographical
right
as well. And having obscure promotions sat behind it, CBD oil. I see that one.
I think that's an industry issue about of nervousness about communicating with patients and having to lock it behind serial numbers or barcodes and all the rest of it, when we are the best providers of technical information to do with products. And we sometimes, I think, we get so wrapped up in what we are and are not allowed to say that we're leaving open to 94 million searches on the way to prepare for colonoscopy, and 92.8 million of those are probably wrong.
Actually, the question patients always ask me is, do you think we'll eventually be allowed to talk to you? which is quite an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
But actually, we think a lot of pharma companies think you cannot talk to patients.
That's not true.
I know, but
It's the same issue with social media. You know, we're missing out on the most. It's where everyone goes for information, and because we don't find a way to do it, or we don't adopt automated ways of doing it, then it's down to whatever kook is on.
The thing is,
that's got a good
there's a hierarchy there, isn't there? Sort of like, you know, if you're not even sending emails or a debt website, as you mean, we're going back to that planning you had. You know, then bringing into a business, oh, let's take a chat.
Yeah, let's jump in there.
You've got to think about, well, let's get the basics right.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're on the emails and getting the website done. The next is let's try and incorporate social media, because those are things that are tangible and easier to do, but we just need to find a way to do them.
But even but you look at what Kim says. This is I mean, I don't know how many digital projects you've done up to that point, but it was probably a significant one, and you'd only been in position for 2 years, and yet by doing a brave move 2 years in, already getting those changes and all that thing. So we can go bit by bit. But there's also when it's got a really good use case. I mean, that was a solid use case for chatbot. You know, saying I want a chatbot because anyone else has got it is not the right my view. You know, that always fails. But in Kim's case, it was just absolutely solid in terms of the need and the application.
We went back to what actually do we need, because we could do chatbots for any of our brands, but actually that made the best sense.
It's the same as everything else. A valid use case is your first thing.
Yeah, very much.
Shiny toy
Why?
syndrome is the last one.
It's why are you actually doing it? What's the point? And because they all came to me, every single brand then went, I want to do a chatbot. Okay, well, why? I want to do an SMS reminder service. Well, why?
So
why do you want to do
quick
it?
question to you there. Now you've got 850 patients on the chat. What time are they using it? It's clearly that's part of the measure, because it was like 24 hour
Early
midnight.
morning. It's very early morning. Because
when they have to take it.
It is when they have to take it. They've taken it and they think it hasn't worked because they took it 5 minutes ago. But actually it takes a little while to get through it as such. So yes, it is early morning or very late at night.
They are sat on the toilet.
They are sat.
The shiny giving is a really important one for me. Back in the 80s, it was make my logo spin. And it was, you know, give me a website, give a chrome finish on it, all the rest of it. And for right now, it's AR in detail age. The number of requests we're getting for looping AR into detail age, poor old reps then have to stand up and do some poor AR demo to an uninterested GP. But because someone else has got it, everyone wants it, and Viva have introduced it. So, yeah, valid use cases, because not only just because it's more worthwhile doing, but you can sell it in, you can get it through, and everyone gets on board and behind it.
I must admit, being a farmer, I did say to a few of the brands, do you really need a detail aid?
Don't say that, it's my business. Everyone needs a detail aid. Everyone. Get your detail aid here.
No one asked the
No, it is, yeah.
It's interesting.
And
a remote detail aid via a chatbot. Why a rep?
Yeah, that's absolutely valid. Yeah, why a medic? Not kidding. Obviously, we all need medics. How we need time? We still got time for questions, so it seems like we've got some going.
Can I ask a voice question?
Yeah.
So as a sort of a shy voice adopter, I don't like really talking to Alexa in company because I keep getting it wrong.
Yeah.
It keeps telling me off, and it's not like doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, the thought of trying to use it in front of a group of people, you did it really impressively just then. It's kind of a learned experience. So how do you help people like me with, our adoption curve?
Yeah, well, I think it'll come in time with the number of devices that are around that you can talk to, So when you buy your next TV, it will have some kind of assistant in. When you buy your next car, it will have some kind of assistant in. When you buy your next Samsung something. When you buy your next Samsung thing next year onwards, you'll be able to talk to it. So gently, you'll start to feel more and more comfortable talking to your technology.
So I find it at the moment it's sort of in at the deep end. I mean, I've managed to get it equally wrong with Siri, Google, and Amazon.
Yeah.
So none of them really.
But then you'll find yourself over the course of the next 2 to 5 years surrounded by more and more devices that you can talk to, and every single one that you can will be better and better year by year. Because unlike building an app which gets better maximum once every 3-4 weeks, then these get better on a day-by-day basis because they're always learning.
I think you might be similar generation to me, probably going by the first voice-activated car stuff.
Exactly.
Call home. It was never, ever. I'm a shy adopter now, but actually one of the first use cases for me is when I'm listening to a podcast and a word I don't understand comes up, or a reference I've never heard before. And it's so easy just to press that button and ask Siri to define that word. And that actually lit very early adopter for me, but I find that more and more useful. Still not sure about having one in my home, but anyway, there we are. Any more questions before we move close?
Just picking up some of the points in terms of pharmaceuticals and industries related. So, do you think there'll be a number of different voice subscriber users, term was used? Do you think there'll be a convergence, or do you think there'll be Alexa home, and there'll be another voice, there'll be another voice specifically as you get to a doctor, or there'll be one voice which just tells you everything? I'm just thinking about it in niche.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I think that there's a chance that in the shorter term that they will get better at different things. So. People used to have a whole load of people that used to have iPhones and other people had Androids, but then if you look around your house, you've probably got lots of different operating systems, and you've got a computer, which is one thing, and then your devices, your tablets may be different things, and you don't really mind as long as they all do the job. That's kind of where it's going to get to. But the more and more you start to talk to one specific assistant, and the more, the holy grail is that it's a three-tiered thing. So first of all, it's trust. You need to trust that if you ask a question, it delivers you back the right answer. And then if that happens, you'll go back to it again, and then it'll learn more about you, and then the answers it delivers to you are personalised. So if you start to engage with, say, Alexa more often than your Google Assistant or your TV, then it'll know more and more about you, and you'll enjoy that conversation more, because it'll be far more bespoke to you and your life, and it'll be like generating a relationship with a friend. And once you've got that trusted and personalised relationship with that assistant, then that assistant can then activate you and recommend things to you that you're more likely to take up. And that's the power that they're all going for, is to try and get to that kind of nirvana.
And that's what I'm thinking of the trust, is when you get to a certain level, because I wouldn't want the one that tells me watch my TV at 9 o'clock to then tell me there's something about voice and trust in a different voice or different. I'm just thinking whether that's healthy in terms of your development, whether you develop for everything, you develop specifically.
Yeah, well, as a brand, I think that you would need to have a strategy where you're developing for every platform that comes out, so that no matter where your audience is, you'll start to be able to get better and better stats about where your audience and what your audience is using different devices or assistants. Much like at the moment, if you're developing an app, you have a look and see. It used to be, actually, I'm just going to build an iOS app because all my people are on iOS, which was never true. It was just everyone in the office had an iPhone, and so you then had to kind of build strategies for building for Android. It's going to be very similar, and the approach that we're taking with that kind of knowledge is we build once and then it deploys everywhere to all of these channels.
I think with all of these things, we must never forget to involve the end user, whoever that might be. Kim's point again, all the 5-star colonoscopy users involved. And I learned a very important lesson right in the early days. Produced an app called the Crisis Card app for people with mental health issues going into crisis. And they used to carry out a card that says, in my crisis, leave me alone in the corner, or get me some water, or call my mum. Whatever their condition was, it was like something they could give to someone as they went into either a bipolar state or whatever it might be. We produced an app for a local charity, and we thought, you wouldn't want an app on your phone that could say crisis. Let's call it something trendy and all the rest of it, so it doesn't look like you. They were like, no, the most important thing to them was that people could find it was called Crisis, and people already recognised what Crisis Card was. Sometimes you can get into your own little marketing loop and think you know best. At the end of the day, bring in the people that are going to use it, whether it needs to be the same voice or a different voice or what platform, they're the best people to tell you on that one. And again, with iOS, we thought no one with mental health issues is going to be running the latest Apple phone, but it wasn't. Everyone in the room had one, so you never know one way or the other. Cool, right, so any last questions, Charlie? No? Okay. So big thanks, another round of applause please for Charlie and for Tim. So thank you all for turning out, and apologies for those of you that signed up for the last one. I got cancelled. I hold my hand up to that one. I didn't fill in the right form, but we're all here today, so thank you very much for coming along. And I would encourage you through the Meetup app, or you probably all got my email address by now, if you have some ideas. I think, Chris, you want to talk about an idea, is that right? So for the next Meetup, something that lights your fire, and especially if you're from an agency with a client that you reckon can come along, we can hear from someone in industry like we did from Kim, or if you're already in industry and got a good, interesting case study you could bring along, that would be amazing. So thank you all very much. You don't have to be out till 9 if you want to drink before you go, but if not, it's been great to see you, and see you next time, I hope. Cheers.